it's Tina the Scrappin' Rabbit, and I have a project to share with you today. I made these adorable little boom box, Gable box treat boxes, and this is a file from SVG Cutting Files. I created this for a blog hop that I'm participating in. So if you're checking out my video today, the blog hop begins at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it is a 24-hour blog hop only, and there is a sale at the SVG shop, and this hop is conjoined with Jaded Blossom, so you're going to see the design team members making projects using both Jaded Blossom and SVG Cutting Files projects. So this is a new file in the store, and this is the little boom box, and I absolutely adore this. So let me share with you what it looks like. You get all the little layers to go on this box, and it's a really good size. So if you open it up, you can see how much room you have in this box to fill it up with lots and lots of goodies. Now this one here that I decorated with this tag, on the back I made this little piece here as a gift card pocket so that I could stick that in there, and then I added a sentiment and a die from Jaded Blossom on there. But look at how stinking cute is this box. There are a lot of layers, but it really came together quite easily. So I went ahead and I made a tutorial how to use this SVG. I use a Cricut Explorer, so you're going to see me how I put together this SVG through Cricut Design Space. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So here I am in Design Space using my Cricut Explorer. So let me just kind of show you a little bit how this works. When you start a project, you're going to click on New Project once you're all logged into your account, and then you are going to upload your SVGs. And then you, along the left hand side here, there's a little cloud. It says Upload with an arrow. You're going to go ahead and click on that. When you download your SVGs, you always want to download them somewhere that you can find them. For me, they go straight to my downloads file, and so I open them up and I unzip them, and I usually put them on my desktop, and then that is where you click on Upload an Image, and then you go to find the file that is on your computer, and it will bring it to this page right here. And as you can see, there are 3 separate files that make up this boom box. There are a lot of layers, you guys, but it is well worth it because it is such a fun file. And then from here, once you have uploaded all 3 of the separate SVG files to put together this boom box, it is going to show up here on this screen. And at this point in time, you can click on them, and then they will all load on to your project screen. And this is what they look like when you click on Insert Images. When you have large files, it will take a while to load, even with a fast internet. And so as you can see, all of your files are on the screen. They may not all be the correct size, you guys, and so you do need to check that. Some of the files are very Design Space friendly, and some of them not so much, and so you just need to deal with it because Design Space is its own entity, and it's not a regular program like Make the Cut or SVG, or I'm sorry, the what is the other one called? Scal. There's another one, that program, and they tend to load up the SVGs pretty accurately every time. And I don't have a silhouette, so I honestly don't know how SVGs load, but using Design Space for a couple years now, I've noticed that no SVG is created equal. You do have to mess with the sizing. So for this box, as you can see, this side is bigger than this side, and so they are grouped together. The thing that you do need to remember, that the most important thing, you can deal with the size at another time, but the most important thing is when you have a box like that that has the score lines stitched in there where you want those little cuts, the first thing that you're going to do is go up into this upper right hand corner, and you're going to ungroup everything because you need to isolate that stitching along with that cut. And so what I do is I'll ungroup, and I'll just kind of move the cuts away so that I can select the stitching and that large cut right there. So I just get those selected, and then I'm going to attach them. And then now the stitching is going to show up. When you have a black cut, you will not see the stitching. So another thing that you can do is you can click on that, and you can actually change the color. And if I just change the color, let's just pick this mango, you're going to see the stitching right there. And it didn't seem to select all of the stitching, or it's just kind of not necessarily all showing in the front. So let me show you how you handle that. You're going to go ahead and select it. You're going to go ahead and detach it. There's the stitching. You saw it load. You're going to click on this and you're going to send it to the back. So you're going to arrange, move it to the back, and then the stitching is all going to come forward. So now you're going to see that stitching. And so if you go ahead and select it all again and go ahead to that bottom right where that paper clip is, click attach. Now you have all your stitching and you can see it, and it's all together and it's not going to separate. So then you kind of have this box isolated, and you're going to want to go ahead and group it. And what I like to do is, because I know that this width here is the same as this width here, in theory I want them to be the same. So now I'm just going to line up all of my cuts so that they're all within this width, so it's not going to interfere with my dimension. And then if I select them again and I group them, when I size them, they're all going to size together. So this one here is grouped, this one here is grouped. And I'm going to do the same thing for the stitching on this large cut. I'll separate it, make sure that I change the color so that I can see it, and then attach it. You can change the colors again all at the end when you go to do your actual cut. So I know this might seem a little bit complicated, but once you play around with it, it becomes easier and easier, and you learn how to figure things out on the screen. But the one thing that I do know is that I need to size these two pieces to be the same so that they are the same size when I put them together for my box. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you how I'm going to do that. All right, so for the same thing, let me go ahead and click on this grouping. I'm going to ungroup it. As it reloads, I'm going to want to just connect the stitching to this box. So I'm just going to move this panel down so that I can select these two pieces right here. And now I'm going to attach them. And again, because it is a black cut, I'm not going to see that stitching, so I'm going to find it over here on my side panel. I guess I can click it and it should go to that piece. Where is it? Right here. And then I'm going to change the color. I'll just pick the same mango color since I want them to cut at the same time. And there you go. You can see that the stitching is there, it's present, and it's on top. So now I want all of the pieces to size together, and if it's too big on my screen, I can go ahead and go to the lower hand corner here and click the percentage of my view, and then that way I can get a better view of everything here. So I'm going to go ahead and group these cuts together, making sure they're all within this width, just like so. And then I'm going to select them again, and I'm going to group them together. And I know that this box is going to be about 4.5 inches high. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is way more than that. So I'm just going to size this down till I can get it to be about 4.5 inches high. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's about 5 inches. So let me just kind of size it down. And it needs to be grouped when you size it, you guys. Otherwise, it is not going to size correctly. Your pieces are all going to be uneven, and you want them to all be proportionate. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. I'm getting closer. And so when you have it a grouping, the much easier way to do this is to build your box and then size it. But I'm just trying to save time here and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just kind of estimating. Okay, so now this is about 4.5 inches, and so if I ungroup it, I'm going to see the size of just this box, this one panel. And this one panel is 7.725 inches wide. So let me go ahead and regroup these again. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this piece right here. And I do have this piece to deal with later, but let me do this one. I want this to be 7.725. And then now these two pieces Did I do that right? I'm sorry, yeah, 7.725. So now these two pieces here, the boxes are going to be basically the same size. If I see if I'm going to line them up on top of each other. There you go. So the width is equal. So now when I put these two pieces together, they are going to make the same size box. So now what I like to do is I'm going to mess with the layers and see, like when this goes beneath it, an easy way to fix that is to come over here to the arrange at the top and say move it to the front. And so now my layers are going to all be on top, and so I can look and see how this is pretty much sized for the box to be about 4.5 inches tall, but it's just a little bit shy. So I know that this piece goes on that front panel, so I can just kind of eyeball it to know that this piece is going to be sized to go right there. And I can just mess with it until I feel like, okay, this piece layers nicely on there. And so a lot of working with some of the SVGs is eyeballing it, depending upon which company that you buy from. And I've had issues with every company, you guys, so just to let you know. And I really love all the creative cuts from SVG Cutting Files. This is a really great company to buy SVGs from. But with Design Space, you do need to mess with it a little bit when it comes to sizing, because they don't read the SVGs like some of the other programs that I've worked with in the past. And so you just have to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup all of these things, and I like to put my box together. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it all looks like when the box is put together. Okay, so I am back. Here is my box put together. I decided to change the color from the mango. I liked this color better. And even though my box is going to be black, I changed it to this color because I'm going to be using a thicker cardstock for the box itself versus the layers. So I didn't want to make it black because all of your black cuts will show up on the same mat. So I just changed the color. And look at how great this box is going to look once we get all the little pieces cut out. Let me show you the picture of the SVG. I always have that handy on my screen so that I can see what it's looking like when I add all the different layers together. So here is the picture that you'll get when you purchase the SVG. They always give you a photo of what the completed project or the completed layers look like. And so as you can see, I don't have them perfectly on my screen, but I have them on there well enough to know that my sizes look accurate, everything looks like it's okay. Maybe things are a little bit need to be centered a little bit better, but I know that the sizes of my cuts are going to be fine, so I can go ahead and send it to cut. And in order to do that, all you're going to do is click on Make It. Make sure that your Cricut is turned on, and it will send you to the mat screen where it's going to show you where all of the different cuts are. And as you can see, my cut lines for the score lines are included in this cut, and because I have them attached, they won't cut separately. I'm going to go ahead and load my mat several times and go through the process of getting all of my cuts together, and then I will meet you back at the desk to show you what all of the pieces look like when they're cut out, and then how I will go ahead and assemble my So here are all my cuts, and when I have little tiny pieces, I have a little bowl that I keep on my desk to keep those little teeny tiny ones so that they do not get lost. I'm going to start by putting the front panel together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold along those score lines so they have those folds already established so that when I put it together I don't have to worry about doing this. So I do that first, and that big handle piece, since it's going to fold the opposite way, I'm just going to use that ruler as a guide to help me get it to go without bending that handle. And so now that I have it nice and creased, I'm going to go ahead and figure out where all the layers go and get all of my pieces put together. And I do like to add distress ink, and so I'm going to use this Tim Holtz gray, I think it's called pumice stone, and I'm going to go over just a few layers with that ink. I think that it really helps to add dimension, and it gives it a more finished look. Since the box is mostly black, I'm not going to do it for too many of the darker pieces, and like I said, I'm not going to ink every single piece, just a few of the ones that I think that it'll stand out and help it look more finished. Now that I have the pieces that I want inked, I'm going to go ahead and get some glue out. I use the Zig 2-way and a Scotch tacky glue. Those are my adhesives of choice when I'm paper piecing and constructing boxes. I'm going to lay the panels down where they're going to go and have an idea of where all the little pieces are going to go. And when I'm putting together the circular cuts, I do try to make sure that they fit correctly and that I have the right side up, because they're not necessarily always going to be perfectly circular with electronic cutting machine cuts, and so you do want to make sure that you have them layered in the best way possible so that they don't look too wonky. So now that I have an idea of where everything goes, I'm going to go ahead and grab my glue and start putting things together. So I'm going to start by putting the littler pieces, and I always use my tweezers. That really helps so much. So as you can see, I'm lining up the circles to get the best circular cut as possible, and sometimes it might accidentally get flipped and you have to flip it around to make sure that it's even. But there's always going to be a way that goes together the best, and that's what I try to look for when I'm gluing. And so I just use my tweezers and I dot with the zig two-way, and then I line it up, and that glue works like magic. I absolutely love that glue for paper piecing. I do like to have a piece of scratch paper so that I can lay my cuts. White is preferable because then I can see everything. And then it also helps with the messy glue, so I don't have to worry about getting glue all over my workspace. If I do make a mess with the glue, it all ends up on that piece of paper, especially with the smaller pieces. As you're dabbing with the two-way pen, sometimes you can't get on the pieces because they're so small. But here I go, just using my tweezers, trying to get the circle to be as round as possible, and laying in my pieces and making sure that I'm pressing firmly. Now I'm going to go and add, sometimes with the cuts, there'll be an open cut, and you can just simply cut out a little piece of paper and glue it to the back side, and then you can have a color come through. And that's what I did for the arrow, so that I can have the white arrow like it's shown in the picture. So I just add that little strip of paper on the opposite side, and then when I lay that down, there I have my arrow, and it is white. And as I go ahead and I do look at the picture, I like to look at the picture of the SVG as I'm putting it together, and that I find that to be a really helpful tool. So now I'm just going to continue to glue the little pieces together, and as I get to this strip, there is a hole there, so I'm going to add a little piece of red paper behind that hole so that it will look like a red button, or I guess like a power light maybe is what it's supposed to be. But it all goes together on that top angular strip, and so I'm going to build it with the littlest pieces first before I adhere it onto that front top panel. And then with the two-way zig, it's nice. It's a nice glue because you have a couple seconds to play with it. So if it lays down a little bit crooked, you can actually move it around until you get it straight. You still have to be quick because it does dry fast, but it doesn't dry on contact. So you get a little bit of wiggle room, which is what I can really appreciate about the zig two-way. And so now I just have a couple more little pieces to put together, the little vent on the side of the box, and then the knob as well. So I'm going to glue that little silver knob to the black circle, and then I'll be ready to put together my front box, the front of my box. So with these bigger pieces, I'm going to use the liquid glue. And before I glue it, I have that little eraser, and that's an awesome tool to have because it picks up any stray glue. So if you have a little shine on your project, that eraser, it's a glue eraser, and it will take it right off, especially when you're dealing with a black box. Every little thing is going to show up, and so as you can see, I'm trying to make sure that there's no extra glue, and I'll even use my tweezers and the eraser to just try to get it off so that you don't have that glue shine on the side, and then making it look more finished and more professional. I just really like my paper piecing to look as nice as possible. So now I'm just going to lay down that top front panel with the glue as well, and then I just do my best to line everything up and have it adhered straight. I'm going to start by gluing the center piece before I do the side pieces. I find that when you're doing something that has a row of things, it's nice to start from the center out And then that way, if it's a little bit off, it doesn't look as bad as if you start on one end and then make it all the way across and didn't give yourself enough room, and then it looks really crooked. So the center out is always the best way to go when you're trying to do a row of something. And this is all eyeballing it. I'm not measuring it, but I am really trying to get it to look straight and to look nice. And I think that it's coming along nicely. And that glue eraser is definitely coming in handy to clean up all the little messy spots to give it a more professional looking look. So now the little pieces that are in my bowl, it's time to use them. And so I'm so thankful for that little bowl, because those pieces would be long gone by now with all the shuffling on the desk. And for these little buttons, I'm just adding glue because there actually is a little dip in that square. And so the liquid glue is helping it to sit on top. And then I don't have to worry about it popping off since it's not really laying flat. So I put the glue in there, stick the little button in, then I push down with my tweezers. And then when it dries, those little pieces are not going anywhere. The wet glue is definitely the way to go for a permanent seal. Much better than the double-sided adhesive. So now I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle with my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. And I'm going to add it to just little areas across the front of my panel just to help it stand out a little bit more. And then I'm going to go around the rim of the front speakers as well. I always like to add a little sparkle to my projects. And so that's my way of doing it. Now I'm going to work on doing the back panel, back side of the box. And so I'm going to fold the creases just like I did with the front piece, and I'm going to use the ruler for that front piece. Because of that handle, it's hard to get a good grip on it, and I don't want it to get bent in the wrong way. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to glue the little pieces together. And I decided that I wanted to make a gift card pocket with that little piece that goes in the back. And I think that it's going to work out perfectly. With the double-sided adhesive, I'm going to put that on 3 sides. And I do want that gift card to sit in there deeply. So I'm going to cut that strip of double-sided tape in half to get a thinner seal along the bottom of that strip. And then any little open spaces, I'm going to use the wet glue to give it a little bit more permanence. It doesn't hurt to have a little extra glue down, especially when you're making a pocket that you're going to be putting something in. So I'm going to lay that down, and I don't think I ended up getting it perfectly straight, but I think it worked out fine. And I'm going to use that little spatula there just to open it up to make sure that as it dries, it is making a pocket. Now it's time to put the final box together. The wet glue is really important for this part because this is really thick. This is thicker cardstock it's 110 pound from Michaels, the black box. And then the layers are the thinner, I think the 65 pound weight. So when you're doing the wet glue, you have to give it a little time to dry. So even though it's a quick dry, you need to make sure that you're pushing down well. But seriously, I have treat boxes from years and years and years ago that I gave my kids, and with the wet glue, they are still intact. Projects that I have using the double-sided adhesive, even the really expensive one, the Sukwang or the Stacy tape, any of those, if you're putting a box together, it is not going to be permanent. That tape, it's just a matter of time before that tape will pop up. So this box is a great size. It's about 5 3/4 wide, and measuring from the top when the box is folded, I believe it's going to be about 4 inches. Is that right? It's going to be 4 inches high. So that is a really nice size box. Now I'm going to dress it up with a little bit of Jaded Blossom. So I made this little tag using Jaded Blossom, label shaped dies, and I found this mint color sheer ribbon, which I thought went really well with the pattern paper that I used for the coordinating tie that goes with this treat box. I'm going to bling up this tag just a little bit with some black rhinestones on there just to give it a little something something. And then it's going to be time for me to put on that bow. And it does take me a while to tie a bow. So I do mess with it for a while, you guys, to get it to where I'm happy with it. But all in all, I think that this project really came together nicely. I think it's really a fun project. And so I'm messing with it until I'm happy, and then I'm going to lay it out here next to the card that I made, the coordinating card, and I think that it is so cute and it's going to be a really fun gift. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked my project and my tutorial. Please check out SVG Cutting Files blog for more SVG cuts, and happy crafting everyone. Bye-bye.